Folks. Hey, I want to show you in in most people's kitchens they have a sink that has a at the bottom of the sink it has a strainer, I think they call it, to catch food before it goes down into the pipes. And we have that. We actually have two sinks side by side that both have something like this. And my new idea is that I actually sometimes eat the stuff that catches in here. Um, and I think most people wouldn't. They just put it down the garbage disposal or toss it. Um, but of course, most of it is food. It's food scraps, basically. That people are cutting things or peeling things, and the peels go in there, or whatever it might be. In my case, I often cut or trim flowers right there next to the kitchen sink because we usually have a bouquet of flowers from the garden in the house. So maybe sometimes we end up with a leaf. Actually, in this case, you can see that kind of lavender thing is a flower that was from a like a stock, a little stalk with those flowers on it that was part of a bouquet. Um, so it's kind of okay idea because it's sort of like free food, and it can be interesting because people share the sink and things may go in that strainer, that other people cut, and if you eat it, you might be eating something that's kind of out of your zone of what you make food wise, but it'll be a different taste for you or a different texture. It's very clean because by sitting in that strainer, it gets water run over it many times. The only hesitation, well, if leaves from flowers go in there, I can tell you that I've eaten leaves from many different plants. And I've eaten flowers, actually, many different flowers, or just, I don't mean a whole flower, just take a bite out of a petal of a flower, often leaving the flower growing and growing on the plant outside, not just in our yard, but when I'm out for a walk and I'm walking past a flowering bush. And most of them are bitter. I will say what people might find objectionable is that sometimes I'll eat a leaf or a flower from a plant I'm not familiar with. I think people would worry in that case about being poisoned. I don't worry about it. I guess in my mind, so I am eating occasionally a leaf from a plant. It's usually more a bite out of a leaf that where I don't really know what the plant is. I don't worry about it too much because it's generally a pretty small amount. Um, Generally, I think the plants that are really poisonous in our environment we sort of hear about and know about. For instance, I'm in Southern California. We often hear that mushrooms are poisonous, or potentially. Most mushrooms are not, but a few are. Um, and so mushrooms for me are a special case. I'm careful with mushrooms. We also hear locally that, and that's probably worldwide, as far as I know, mushrooms are a concern everywhere. Um, but we're not getting random mushrooms in this strainer. It's either flowers or more often it's food, like little scraps of food. I will tell you, so I don't personally worry about it. I'm not advocating that you do what I do. I'm okay with it. I haven't been harmed by it, but you make your own decision. We're told in our environment this is an oleander leaf, and these are reputed to be poisonous, but in large quantities. You'd have to eat a lot of these whole leaves at one go to damage yourself. Now, I've often eaten that much of an oleander leaf, and I can tell you they're real bitter. You'd have to be, I don't know how you'd even eat a bunch of complete leaves at a time. Um, but just eating a bit of one leaf, I've done it many times walking because this bush is very common. Yeah, it's quite bitter. Um, I will tell you, there was a time when I would eat bitter things like this, like a little bit of oleander leaf, eat the whole thing. Um, these days, if I get a bit of something bitter, I would spit it out. I would eat it slowly. I'd kind of chew a few times and then kind of stop chewing and let that kind of bitter taste kind of slowly go down my throat, and then maybe chew a little bit again, because that bitter taste is really shocking to the system. And if you just keep continuously chewing, it'll keep all coming. But if you if you do it in waves, your body can handle it because it gets a chance to rest, and then you chew it a little more. These days, if I get something bitter, if I'm out on the street, I usually just spit it on the ground. Here, I often will spit it into my milk if it gets too bitter, because then I've gotten some of that bitter already, but I get a chance to really break that into segments. Now I'll get it in tiny pieces here and there with a swallow of milk. It might flow down my mouth, down my throat without me ever chewing it. Or if I do get it, I'll get even a smaller bit, and maybe I can chew it and I can handle it, or I can even spit it back in the milk again until finally it all gets eaten. Now this stuff, okay, I'm going to scoop it out with my finger. So I got it. There's some hair in there too, which isn't scary. Now that's pretty nice, but it has a soap taste because soap and water are going through the sink. Otherwise, it's just chewy. There's no taste I can recognize in there. So I'm not liking that soap taste, so I'm going to spit in the milk. And I gather up some saliva and get that in the milk to get it all out. I don't share that milk with anyone, you know. I drink enough milk that I get my own. But now, you know, I already broke that up partially because I chewed it for, 30 seconds. Now I shake it, and all those little bits kind of spread throughout the milk. So if I get it, and the saliva gets all mixed with the milk, I guess the saliva is not even, well, the saliva is mixed with the sort of soap taste, so let that spread. But that was such a small amount of food. It's going to be so diluted. So I took a swallow of milk. I didn't taste any of that stuff in there. It's just very diluted. A lot of it sinks to the bottom. I may get it as I go down, but it's more handleable, manageable. You can kind of figure, so when you chew it, you probably release some of those bitter juices, and spit them in the milk. If you end up doing that, now sometimes I just eat whatever's in this strainer, eat it and swallow it down. But in this case, it was getting kind of bad tasting. But those bits probably won't be as bitter because the juice that they released in my mouth is now spread throughout that milk. So that's all diluted too. Anyway, I think it's kind of fun just for something different. One person in the household actually cooks with ginger or makes food with ginger, which I really actually wouldn't have known, except a bit of their ginger ends up in the strainer. And I know it from eating the ginger that was in the strainer. And maybe I'll get some, I'm thinking now I'll buy some ginger of my own. So eating from the strainer did give me a new idea for food I could eat. So that's the idea. If you want to do it, do it. I mean, it wouldn't have to be, if you're going to spit it in fluid like I do, it wouldn't have to be milk. It could be any fluid, water or juice or alcohol or whatever. The people in my house, I think in certain households, I mean, if I would be willing to share a container of beverage with someone else in the household if they drank straight from the container or put little bits of unusual food in there. It wouldn't concern me, but I think most people probably wouldn't share. If they had put they probably wouldn't share their beverage container with anyone else if they were drinking straight from it. So that's between you and anyone you might share beverages with. But I think it's kind of a cool idea. I mean, if you think about it, around the world, there's probably 1 billion of these in households around the world or more. If people in all those households ate the peelings that ended up here, that'd be some food savings. That would be a little less resources that we'd have to take from the earth, where we're getting new food, not food like scrap food in the strainer. We wouldn't have to take quite as many resources from the earth because we'd be using that food that we previously hadn't used. So think about it. As I say, it's up to you. Oh, folks, I should say, if I forgot to say something that I later decide is important or want to change something I said, or I'll write it in the comments below the video. I think they call that the video description. I don't know which side it'll be on for you. So look for that, or I may make another video. I prefer doing that to making another segment once I turn the video off, because I think maybe adding another segment might mess with the focus. So look for writing under the video. I should add, had mentioned that I had a soapy taste, but it usually doesn't. I'm not sure if I just soaped some or something with soap, but usually there's so much water. There's a lot of water that goes that's more like rinse water. So the stuff in the strainer doesn't end up with soap. But a tiny bit of soap, it doesn't taste that good, but if you ingest it, it's not going to harm you, I don't think.